We start out with Jack Fenton asking Danny and his friend if they wanted to hunt ghosts, though Danny corrects that he actually decided that he'd like to be a plumber instead. This confused his father, as he'd asked Danny if he would rather fix toilets than fight supernatural beings from another reality, but was quickly corrected by Tucker, who stated that the plumbers are actually an intergalactic police force. This confused Danny's father further, as Sam reminded him of the giant Toku stars that attacked a while back, and about the hero Ben 10, stating that he was a part of the organization Danny was referring to. Looking lost, Jack just stated that if they did decide they wanted to hunt ghosts, there were some things that they would need to know going into it. He then began messing with some stuff on the table as Danny's ghost sense went off, and the octopus twins began attacking, grabbing Sam and Tucker as Danny changed into his ghost form and began to fight them off. All with Jack missing the whole thing as usual, while he held up the Fenton thermos and told them that it was meant to trap ghosts, though he never actually got that to work. So for now, it was just basically useless. After driving the octopus twins back into the ghost zone, Danny then changed back to human form and sat down, with Jack then telling them about the ghost portal as well. He'd assumed they were too excited to speak, and just continued to ramble on. We then cut to the next day at breakfast time, with Maddie working on some sort of ghost finding object, and it told them that there was a ghost in front of them, referring to Danny. Maddie, Danny's mother, assumed that the device had been defective since it just led them to Danny for some reason. Danny told them that he needed to tell them something, but his elder sister Jazz told him that he needed more than that, and that he needed guidance and parents who could provide that. But he doesn't take kindly to her interrupting what he was going to say, as his eyes flashed from blue to green. Danny told Jazz that he didn't need a babysitter, he was 16 and could speak for himself, before walking away angry at his family for not listening, though Maddie took note that Danny's eyes had changed colors. But that was the first time that they'd ever done that, confusing her. Later on at school, Danny was talking to his friends about whether or not he should tell his family. But Sam just blows this idea off, comparing them to her own parents, before rambling about not being accepted. Telling his friends that it's been a couple of months since the accident, but his powers still were taking some time to get used to. While walking and chatting with them as he accidentally phased through a vending machine, though Sam tells him that being unique is good. It helps you stand out more as an individual. Sighing, he knows that she's right, and they head on to lunch, finding it was some sort of change into the menu. At first, they thought Sam was involved, but she told them not to look at her. She knows forcing her lifestyle on someone else isn't okay. Offering is one thing, but they understood and questioned the lunch lady who changed the menu and found that they had some nut job trying to force it on everyone. They'd rather be serving the normal menu of both meat and veggies and just let the students pick what they wanted. But apparently it was a school board decision. Since Lancer doesn't come to thank Sam for the change in menu, the whole dash thing doesn't happen. And so when Danny's ghost sense goes off, with him spotting the lunch lady ghost inside the kitchen area of the cafeteria and told his friends what he saw. Nodding, the three of them then slipped away to investigate what's going on. Tucker commenting that she sorta reminded him of his grandmother. The lunch lady ghost asked if they could help her. Today was meatloaf, but she couldn't find it and asked if someone changed the menu. Tucker does still tell her that the menu was changed, but said that they weren't sure who. Just that the school board approved of it apparently. Though she does get angry, they don't attack Sam, as she wasn't the one at fault here. Instead, they began ranting about how lunch has been the same for 50 years before flying off towards the faculty lounge. Going after the faculty, she absorbs all of the meat onto her and makes it into a meat suit thing from the show, while Danny has enough and changes into his ghost form and tries to fight them off before the faculty could be attacked or even notice. Though they'd managed to drive them away, Danny grabbed Tucker and Sam before phasing into the next room over so as to not be noticed, just as the teachers had exited the faculty lounge, confused as to what could have happened to their lunch. Danny continued through to the outside of the building and changed back mid-air, passing out from exhaustion. Waking up later on, Tucker told him that he'd passed out. It had been a couple of hours. Since Sam wasn't the one changing the menu, the two weren't going to be fighting, though he does does state that Danny almost dying was the fault of whoever changed the menu, and that he was going to get it back, as he and Sam left to let Danny rest. The next day, we see Tucker had gathered up the meat eaters into one group to try to get the menu changed back, though the vegetarians were all gathered in another against having meat on the menu. And where was Sam? Sam was over with the meat eaters, chewing on a grilled carrot on a bun. When some of the vegetarians called her a traitor, she told them that they're the ones in the wrong. Choosing not to eat meat is one thing, but forcing everyone else to not eat it either was wrong. Some people chose to eat meat. That's their business. The lunch lady ghost then reappears, taking all of the meat, fusing it into a giant meat body, and began attacking again, with everyone scrambling as Danny ducked under a table and changed into his ghost form again before starting to fight with them, kicking them in the side of the head and knocking the meat body over. They then punched Danny upwards, and he phased through an oncoming airplane before charging back down and slamming against the lunch lady, blasting her meat body to bits as he'd made a crater. The lunch lady ghost, if Danny was alright, then got angry when he said he was and created 5 smaller meat bodies to attack him. Though he was able to easily break them apart, they just pulled themselves back together again. Danny called for Sam and Tucker to get into his backpack and throw him the thermos. He's got an idea. Doing so, the two found the Fenton thermos and threw it to him. The lunch lady ghost getting angry, saying that soup wasn't on the menu, but he told her he was changing it permanently while trying to pour his ghost energy into the device, making it charge up and work, allowing him to capture her inside, as he then capped it off and kept her there, changing back to human form, having used up too much energy. Since they didn't have to clean things up, as they weren't really the cause of any of that, they chose to ditch before anyone noticed, leaving the school faculty to clean up their mess, since it was their fault that it happened anyway. They headed out to the Nasty Burger to relax and enjoying some real food, though Sam went for the double veggie, and they were okay with that, as Danny and Tucker had actual burgers.